Welcome to Viseland. Mikey, what are we talking about today?
Well, Jason, let's first talk about what we just saw today because this is unreal.
Yeah,
I can't
totally.
believe what's happening. Like 1-3-1 lead coming back from that is just bonkers. 2-3-1 leads against the team that I personally thought maybe had the best chance to win the NBA championship. I still
Yeah,
can't
the Clippers are
believe
one of
what I saw.
the deepest teams. Like they had good guys coming off.
Apparently not.
Yeah, no, totally not. Denver, Jamal Murray, who obviously friend of the program, we're huge fans of, having a playoff for the ages, like just killing it. Jokic also just, I like that last one at the end of the game where he like threw it back over his head to Jamal and they found.
That
That's
was
like
freaking crazy.
that's like a
Best, by the way, Nikola Jokic was the best player on the floor.
oh,
Like
totally.
he's absolutely unreal. We're going to be doing some talking about Nikola Jokic today. We'll I think once you hear our main topic, you'll get that. But man, that was what a game. And then, did you get a chance to see the Heat versus Celtics?
Yeah, I caught like the last few minutes of the regulation and overtime.
Unreal.
Yeah,
Absolutely fantastic game. I'd like give us 7 games of that, and I think it's going to be a great series. It
Miami's
was
playing at a
going.
good level.
Oh, what were you saying?
Miami's playing at a high level. They're playing.
Absolutely. Oh, Miami is a very well constructed team. That Bam Adebayo block on Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum playing tremendous basketball, by the way. The job Miami did on Kemba Walker, Jimmy's basket to give them the lead eventually, like it was amazing. Yeah, we'll give you our thoughts on who's going to win the conference finals. First game of the conference finals for the Eastern Conference just went down today. If people weren't watching, the Miami Heat beat the Boston Celtics 117-114 in overtime. And there was a game 7 in the Western Conference semifinals, and that was Denver beating the Los Angeles Clippers in like absurd fashion. The last 3 games just absolutely dominating the second half.
Each game being down double digits at a point. I mean, even today in the first half, down double
Oh
digits.
yeah. They started off the game pretty poorly.
And Jamal Murray came on in that second.
Amazing 40-point game for Jamal Murray. And
Jokic
just a lot of like the contributors for the Nuggets, like Jeremy Grant has been really good. Gary Harris has been so key.
Yeah, that was good. That was good that they got him back. Yeah, they got him to come back.
Oh man, well, like defensively, he just makes them an entirely different team, especially with the fact that he actually brings the offense that Torrey Craig really kind of doesn't. Torrey Craig did some good things here too. Just a lot of solid contributions. Michael Porter Jr. has been huge for them as a role player, and just obviously with the shooting that he brings, and even been slightly better as a defender, though still room for improvement. The Lakers better be careful. Like, we'll get more into it, but yeah, man, Denver is.
Yeah, how they match with Denver is going to be super, super interesting because, it's like.
Yeah. The Clippers looked like the team to beat, and Denver, the last 3 games, just absolutely waxed them in the second half. God, kudos to Denver, like their entire management. Rafal Jock, who's a scout that I absolutely love, and many other people working with Nuggets. Michael Malone, excellent coach.
Great job, yeah.
A tremendous job there. And man, are they fun to watch. And when things are clicking, they're a really great team. Even last year when they took the Blazers to 7.
And they're so young. I mean, like Millsap's like their one.
Yeah.
That everyone else is, in that kind
of. Yeah, Jokic and Murray, obviously, both very young. And we were just very, very, sorry to say, like, it seems like a curse of the Clippers. Like, I don't believe in curses. I'm very anti-curse and superstition, but wow, it's, I guess, not impossible to explain, but it's not something I saw coming.
couldn't have happened to a better group of people. Like I obviously had some strong feelings about Kawhi leaving the Raptors. So
Yeah.
it
I just think Paul George's shooting was like all over the place.
give it, then it take it.
Trez was never the same once he came into the bubble. Like obviously he won Sixth Man of the Year, and very surprised he kind of wasn't. I guess you can't be too surprised because obviously there was a lot going on there. But yeah, the bubble has made things just that much more unpredictable. And
totally.
I still think are in a good place. Trez, I still think, is going to get paid very well in the offseason. Another player we're going to talk about. But yeah, let's get into our topic. And we figured that since the draft finally has been announced as November 18th, 2020,
I would still
somehow staying in this year.
I'd say based on 2020, they'll put it in pencil on your calendar because nothing should be in pen. But yes,
don't Sharpie it. Like don't Seth Davis Sharpie that draft.
Don't Sharpie it. That's permanent. Like
yeah,
in pencil, but November 18th is the tentative date.
We're almost Sharpieing, but definitely we don't want to call it too early.
I'm putting it on the whiteboard so I could like erase it if needed.
Indeed. But yeah, so we're going to talk next week about some second round sleepers. We want to first talk about some of the best second round picks and undrafted players currently in the NBA. So we're going to do a top 10 ranking. We're going to start from 10, go to 1. I think if you follow the NBA, you'll know who number 1 is, and he's very topical, and I don't think there's any recency bias to who number 1 is. There may be a little recency bias to the rest of the list. I won't lie.
Yeah, but totally possible. But again, if you have strong opinions about our list, definitely comments. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, and we're naming 10 players. Then we're going to give a nice list of just to show how many second round picks are making great contributions in the NBA, playing nice roles on a bunch of teams across the league. We just want to shout those out. We'll shout them out at the end as well. But yeah, let's start off with our 10th selection. And the guy who is 10 on our list, Utah fans, there are a couple guys on your team who I could have chosen. I hope I at least get into your better graces because there are a lot of great names for this list. And the guy that I have number 10 is there because I really like his game and I like how he is a secondary playmaker for the team. He is an excellent shooter, just great compliment on both ends of the floor. And the guy I have at number 10 is Joe Ingles, who played. So as always with Viseland, we give you a little bit of a background on them as prospects. And this is before I'm sure at the time I wasn't too into Joe Ingles and I hadn't been working for NBA Draft.net yet. But Joe Ingles played for the South Dragons from 2006 to 2009. I guess that was the entire length of the team being called the South Dragons. And he was undrafted. 6'8", like I'm guessing now he's like 230, 240. The guy
pretty well sized.
Lefty, tremendous passer, and like I think for his career, he is shooting like around 39% from three. No, 40.7% from three. The last couple years, he's been around 39%. This year, he didn't average double digits during the season, but he was still 5.2 assists per game. He plays a number of years he plays for FC Barcelona, and then his last year in Europe, he played for Maccabi Tel Aviv, and he won the EuroLeague championship. So
on a
solid contributor.
Pretty deep team as well when he was on Maccabi.
Well, absolutely. You win the EuroLeague championship, you probably are going to have a deep team. And he decides to come over to the NBA. He plays for like a veterans minimum type deal the first few years. And he shows enough where Utah eventually gives him a really nice deal.
Yeah. And
he has been a huge part of them just being a really good team the last few years.
Yeah, I think for him, he's just a solid, dependable player. Can kind of, make some plays, hit those.
Does like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, like it's like he's not the most athletic guy on the court, but he doesn't.
No, but he's yeah. But the fact that he can not only like shoot at a tremendously high level, but also take on some of those secondary or tertiary playmaking duties, like that's really big for them. And he has been, and the fact that he can play on the wing or even like, play up at times. But yeah, like a 6'8" guy, a guy his size, able to play on the wing, is a lefty, so that throws people off even more. And I just want to give a shout out to Joe Ingles, and I really respect his game. I think that
I think
he's a great complimentary piece.
He's a dude. He gets under opponent's skin on both ends of the court. He does a little bit of a little bit of everything there. He's
shown that he can ball at this level, and he's making starter money and he's playing starter minutes, and it's good stuff. The thing I wanted to shout out also is that out of the 150 minutes leaders, 46 of those were either second round picks or undrafted.
Yeah,
that was an interesting stat. Like almost 30% of the league. And for the not the 150 minute leaders or who qualified are like the best players in the league, but just showing that there are a lot of guys that play minutes that were drafted in the second round. I think you'll also see here is in the difference between like first round picks versus second round picks is like Joe Ingles is a complimentary piece. A lot of these guys are complimentary pieces, and then we'll get to some all-stars later, but just know that if you get a second round pick and they are a good complimentary piece, that's a win. That's a big time win. I find that I haven't done the research for this in a while, but I found when I did do the research, usually about 8 to 10 second round picks have 6-year or more career. It's not a lot of guys. So if you get a second round gem who can be in your rotation, that's a pretty big deal.
There's enough players that get drafted 15 through 30 that never get the guaranteed contract, but never really make those contributions either.
Those players usually get at least more of a chance to get second chances.
Oh no, of course they get more of a chance. But these guys come into work, and then also Ingles again. It's that international thing of he went undrafted when he first declared, but then he was playing in FCB, playing in EuroLeague, and kind of earning his.
And the format of the list, I think I forgot to say, is we're going to kind of make this as if we're going into next year, what maybe an NBA rank would look like. But obviously it takes a lot into account this year, and then your past history has to have a little bit of an effect as well, and it'll factor in as you'll see when we get to point later in the list where the guy may be a little bit controversial at this point based on what happened this season. But I still feel that there are going to be people that back me up on this one. So at 9, we have a player that is very relevant right now, and he is this dynamo bench scorer. It's not Lou Williams. It is Goran Dragic. And Goran is obviously from Slovenia. Helped Luka win Slovenia a Eurobasket a couple years ago. And he was the 45th pick in the draft, 2008 draft. And he was chosen by the Phoenix Suns out of Union Olympia. And he immediately comes into the NBA and is a contributor right away.
He was scrappy. I remember when one of his first series, he was against the Lakers, and you just figured he and Sasha Vujacic were from Slovenia. You're oh, they're probably friends. They probably know each other. Hated each other, and they were just get in with each other. And that's okay, who's this guy? That was like my first like notice of like really Goran Dragic and like his game was like that series.
And then another lefty who just, man, like his ability to get to the basket and finish through contact, good shooter. He's just always been, he's a guy that can get buckets in droves. And I feel like he's been, I know that they were trying to trade him to Dallas before the season started, or I think around draft time. And I just don't think the money worked or something like that. It will be cool if he does end up going to Dallas and playing with Luka. Like,
I think he's coming up on his.
It would work really well together, but man, is he working well with the Heat right now?
Yeah,
and he's had some huge scoring games the last little while. I think he led them in scoring today, if I'm not incorrect. But the guy just is a bucket, and it just really good at his role.
Yeah, he's an all-star. He won a Most Improved Player. He didn't. It's funny.
He was an all-star a couple years ago.
He was an All-NBA third team 1 year, and that was not the year he made the All-Star team. I mean, he's had a lot of really solid years. I mean, he had 2 stints with Phoenix, and then I think his contract, isn't it up for the 2020?
Yeah,
that was last year. So I mean, maybe he ends up like reuniting with Luka on that level or doing something. He still can contribute.
The money will have to work, but yeah. I think that it's just going to be really interesting to see where he goes. Like I have a feeling he's not going to be back in Miami, but we'll see. Like they are, man, like they're on the precipice of doing something really interesting, and I really think that the way that their team is constructed right now, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah,
they're going to be very tough to beat. Like even Western Conference, like as I said at the beginning of the playoffs, I felt there were 3 teams. I only have one of those teams left. I felt it was the Clippers, the Bucks, or the Lakers, and the bubble has done these crazy things.
The bubble's pop.
Yeah. I should have, I always did like Miami, and I should have had more faith in them. And they have a real team, like the shooting, the defense, and Goran just having that other guy that can attack off the bounce, like is a really big deal with Jimmy.
Oh, totally. And he's having a great year. I mean, 16 points, 5 assists. Like he's still doing it, still bringing it strong. And I think like he's going to help Miami because I think they still have a really good chance at this series. I mean, this is a team that can hopefully, cause a little anarchy.
Yeah. And in the playoffs, he's raised it up to 21 points per game and almost 5 assists per game. So Goran, he's getting a little up there, and he's actually older than our next guy on the list, and that is Lou Williams. So it's tough between the two of them, and obviously Lou has never made an All-Star game, has won 6th Man of the Year 3 times, I believe, and is the guy who is the constant comparison in the NBA draft for small guard who can score in droves, and that guy you want giving you the push off the bench. I just still feel like Lou Williams, as far as isolation scoring and, just having these complete microwave little bursts.
Well, he can be.
He's like second to none there.
Yeah, he's crazy scorer. If other guys are off, you bring him off the bench. Like he's someone you have at the end of the game. And it's
a guy who can create his own basket. Like has done that at such a high level for a really, really long time. He was drafted in 2005. Yeah. So he was out of South Gwinnett High School. He was the 45th pick in the draft by the Philadelphia 76ers. And he, it took him a while to kind of get his role. And then he really, really kind of delved into or excelled at it after he left Philly. I feel like he still had some good years with Philly, but once he got to Atlanta, spent a year with Toronto, spent a year in LA with the Lakers, and then he spent a little time with Houston too before getting to being part of the trade that got Chris Paul to Houston.
I think he's been a like super solid guy for the Clippers because it's just he's like didn't he lead them? Wasn't he close to leading them in scoring one year like off the bench? I think
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, he averaged his first year there. He was at 22.6 points per game. They almost made the playoffs, and he did lead them. Yeah, he was tied with Blake Griffin actually.
Yeah, like which is crazy. Like a dude.
He was in the All-Star like conversation that year too.
Oh, for sure, and because he just it's just like it's such a good role. Like I think of him. I think of Jamal Crawford. It's like the guys that just come off the bench, and they just get going. They just do it, and that's why he's three times Sixth Man of the Year. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Absolutely, and you just at times you do need that guy to come off the bench and just get you buckets, and Lou really excels at that. And his ability to just like be the main scoring threat for your bench unit, like it's huge. It's been a big thing with every team he's been on for the last little while.
And he can still go too. Like he's 33, but he's
younger than Goran Dragic too.
Yeah,
like similar ages, but Goran drafted in 2008, Lou drafted 2005, in the same spot, in that 45 spot.
Yeah, and just like when Lou's like part of that last high school group, to come in.
Yeah, and he's like, as we said last week, so many guys in that group in 2005 were underdrafted, if anything. And Lou was definitely one of those guys. Like if you did a redraft, he has to be lottery. And he was like a really highly regarded high school player as well. It was a weird high school class, not the deepest class, not like the best, but yeah.
But he's he's 6'1", and he's not like a pure point guard too. So like those are the things that I'm like
for sure.
He's super skinny coming out of high school, which obviously he's improved.
He and Monte Ellis were drafted like right around each other, and
and they're both like
I think that both applies to both of them.
Yeah.
And Monte got it going a little bit early on, but unfortunately, not around the league anymore.
Lou is still here, and you know what? Sometimes he needs a break to go to Magic City for some chicken wings. He'll do it, and back to the bubble. He'll still play eventually. Yeah, that was a little interesting.
I'm waiting for the takes, the unfair takes that will come in about that. And Lou Williams with Magic City. Like,
no, I don't think that affected
if anybody says that, shut your freaking mouth. Shut your freaking mouth. But maybe that's just me being crazy and thinking somebody would actually be insane enough to think that. I am that person apparently. But we'll go on to our 7th spot. And look, I'm actually saying the numbers in order.
This is the first on the program, by the way.
Yeah, I wrote them down just to make sure. Robert Covington. And Robert Covington is probably somebody you look at this just raw statistics and even like analytics wise, he's not necessarily like jumping off the page or anything like that. Though in the playoffs, his numbers were greatly improved, I think, because his shooting was so damn good. But he, at every stop he's made over this last little while, like, from Philly and to Minnesota, like everything there, he has just been a wonderful, like, defensive, first off, like, the things he does defense.
On Houston, he's one of the few guys you could say is like a reliable defender.
I don't know. I think PJ Tucker and like they had
not at the 5, but
I think the main thing with Houston was his ability to play the 5. Yeah, like the fact that he can play the 5 or the 4 and still be a fantastic defender there, give you some rim protection. And step out, like, Houston wanted to play as like a 5-out team where they had everybody that could spot up from the 3-point line, and Covington really fits that very well. And his versatility as a defender, he is, he was huge for them, and I think he's going to be huge going forward.
Like, I mean, he was hitting some career highs, and
And so he was out of Tennessee State. and had a lot of interest from him from his play at Tennessee State. It was a little surprising to see him not get drafted. But, yeah, it seems like Houston initially was the first team he goes to. He eventually winds up with Philadelphia and carves out a really solid role.
Well, he's one of the guys that did it from the G League too, where he came up.
Yeah.
Through that, and that's what helped get him the kind of obviously probably work out some things in his game, and then once he gets on Minnesota, he's been just consistently double-digit scorer. His 3-point. It went down this year, but I mean, he like last year on Minnesota, he was like 40. No, sorry, that was field goal. But yeah, he was like 35%. I was like, oh, that's really good. No, sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. But yeah, no, pretty solid, decent shooter.
Yeah, in the playoffs from 3, he was making 2.8 attempts per game, and he shot 50%.
Yeah, I'll take that any day. Yeah.
Yes, like obviously I think Covington's spot maybe a little bit of recency bias, but he is a player that so many teams could use. And I think a huge part of why Houston's 5-out and small ball almost got them over the edge. Like even with the Lakers, like you could just see how quickly they could score. And I felt like their defense was actually really good.
I think because the Lakers are the best defense I've seen them play, but it's
No, but like Houston. I thought Houston's defense was good.
No, so I'm saying Houston was playing their best defense that they played. I mean, even obviously
Houston was one of the best defensive teams in the bubble, like just in general. And I think Covington and Tucker being able to play small yet still cover position and then provide that shooting, that's huge. So, yeah, Covington is the guy that I have at 7 on this list. At 6, Montrezl Harrell was the 6th man of the year. Now, obviously, this isn't recency bias because I would probably have Covington over him if we took into playoff performance, but I have to give it to Trez because of what he did this season. Yes, he's a big and everything, but like he's proven he can play center in the league. He still is a defensive factor. He's not the best defender, but he's still a factor. He has that 7'4" wingspan. When he was at Louisville, he like led the nation in dunks the last 2 years he was there. I felt like if he would have left in 2014, he definitely would have been a first-round pick. I was pretty surprised that he fell to the second round. He was the 32nd pick by the Rockets. And, yeah, he was really, really good this year. Obviously was not himself when he came back, and his numbers will definitely show that, and then I think his overall impact as well. Though, yeah, he was still he was still like I would say overall like a net positive when he played.
And he's a big wide body. Like he just comes in,
7'4" wingspan.
Yeah, like it's just like and especially off the bench, like that is such a benefit for your team. But obviously, he's probably gonna
he was still good in the playoffs. he was like when you look at his per minute numbers, like that's still something that you love from your backup center, or backup big in general.
But he's playing almost 30 minutes a game, during the regular season, and then he bumps down to like close to what was he getting like 18.
I think part of it was Zubats had been giving some good minutes as well.
He's a bigger guy, I guess, for Jokic too. I guess like in that kind of.
But the thing with Trez that has always been really impressive: 1, his energy, and 2, his ability to score around the basket. And he's super strong. He's always been like a really good leaper, and he's like quick off the floor. So yeah, he's still somebody I'm really interested to see what happens with his free agency, because I don't think the Clippers can afford him. He was making $6 million per year this year. I think one of the reasons why the Clippers looked as good as they were is they have these guys playing these huge contributions on like backup contracts.
Yeah.
They're going to have to pay some of those guys. So you may not have Trez. Well, we'll see where Trez goes. I'm guessing he's going to follow the money, and he'll get like you would think at least like 2-3 times more than what he was being paid this year.
Oh,
And
for sure.
there's still a market for him, and he was still a really good player off of the bench, and I'm sure he could start on a number of teams as well. But he's another second-round pick, a guy I was very surprised was a second-round pick, and
That's why.
I want to throw out and say that he of the 2015 draft, like it's pretty like shallow at the top. There are a few guys. Obviously, you've got Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Kristaps Porzingis, and Trez is like hovering right outside that group.
Totally.
So yeah, he was a little bit surprised that he went as low as he did, and he I think like took a little while to kind of get into like find his spot in the league, but yeah, once he did, and now
he's at the point he's found it. He's still he's still pretty young too. Like he's gonna get paid.
Yeah. So this next player is, I believe, our last of the undrafted players. We have 3 undrafted players on this list. And talking about getting paid, this guy is about to have a really nice offseason. I feel like he could stay put, but they're going to have to show him the money. And he, I think this was like a situation where you weren't sure. I guess you should have been more sure. I don't know. Like you both classify these guys as point guards, but they played so damn well together and were like tremendous defenders at either guard position. Fred VanVleet is my 5th spot on this list, and he had a fantastic season. He's absolutely – he went from – it was crazy last year. So he went from like last year he was kind of struggling like before his – I think it was his son. Before his son was born, he was really shooting kind of poorly from the field. And then once his son was born, like it was like a switch flip. I remember people were saying to put in Jeremy Lin, like not the. And I don't know if people knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. Not another Lin sanity. Yeah, I think Fred VanVleet.
Try somebody else other than Fred VanVleet. He was struggling. A switch flipped, and he was like a huge reason they won the championship and was tremendous. And it had like a great season for them also that year before. So no wonder they went to him as much as they did. This year averages 17.6 points per game, 6.6 assists, plays that excellent defense. He's under 6 feet tall. He wasn't drafted. It was mainly, I would say, definitely well on the radar. And one guy I will give a lot of credit to is Kevin Pelton, who was pushing Fred VanVleet as a draft prospect like from his sophomore year on. Had a tremendous box plus minus and was really good at Wichita State, had some great teams there. Just really tough guy. Can score from all 3 levels.
Well, now that's what he's doing.
So like a bowling ball near the hoop also.
No, he's pretty good. He's pretty buff.
Really intelligent player too. Like, God, he's smart.
And it's just it's an unfortunate situation for him. He's earned himself into this position where, yeah, he's going to get a lot of money, and it's probably not going to come from Toronto, sadly. But I think he's made such a great
3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio
on the team.
Like crazy.
Shooting, and hopefully for him, he's going to get paid. And he's going to get the chance to be the point guard on a team too, because now he does play with Lowry, which is.
I think he was like the legit 3rd guy on Toronto this year.
Yeah, oh, totally.
Yeah. And then in the playoffs, he was like the 2nd guy.
Yeah, I think he's going to be that and more on another team. Like, he's definitely going to be getting paid, and he's going to be getting the chance to get the ball and put up a good amount of shots.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying the Knicks and like whoever gets Fred VanVleet, you have a nice little future ahead of you with a great guard and a guy that you'd see if you play next to another guard that can guard his position. You can play 2 small guards. Like he absolutely proved that this year. And like he would look fantastic in Dallas, that's for sure. But I just don't know if they have the money to do that. A lot of teams could use a Fred VanVleet.
Oh, totally.
And
Just a great
he
energy on the court.
Yeah, he like shown that he's a really good up and coming player. Oh, he's actually listed at 6'1". God, I'm surprised I didn't know that. But yeah, I always felt like he was like this really kind of like smaller guy, but obviously really strong, like much plays bigger than his size anyway.
Well, like Kyle Lowry. I mean, they're similar, and I think he's probably a better shooter.
There are definitely some similarities there. Does a lot of little things, and I know that my friends in Toronto felt that the Raps kind of got robbed for all defensive teams, where it could have been either Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet for one of the last spots over like a Eric Bledsoe, let's say, who had a great year on the best defense in the league, but did Milwaukee need 3 players? I guess for the regular season, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I guess like the regular season.
When you're talking about some of the best defenders in the league, like Fred VanVleet is a name that's getting brought up as well.
No, totally. He's definitely. I mean, almost two steals a game. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah. This is a guy that so moving on, and we are already at the 4th spot on our list. This may be a record for Viseland episodes in terms of how fast we're going. But yeah, we have Malcolm Brogdon, and you could probably go either way with Fred VanVleet, Malcolm Brogdon. I have a Malcolm Brogdon story I'm kind of too embarrassed to tell on this podcast at this point, but maybe one day I'll get it out. But either way, Malcolm Brogdon has surprised the HE double hockey sticks out of me, and he has been so good for like ever since he's come into the NBA. Obviously, Wayne Rookie of the Year, immediately on a playoff team.
As a 2nd round pick too, like
yeah. So he was the 36th pick in the draft by Milwaukee in 2016. Wins Rookie of the Year. It's a weird year. Like obviously, you have like Dario Saric, who I guess came runner-up. Joel Embiid, if he'd played like maybe like 9 more games or something, like would have won it, and you could probably have an argument that he should have won it because
he was the best
player of them.
Yeah,
he only played 31 games. Malcolm Brogdon played 82 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, Malcolm got hurt a few times this year, but still, like the job that he did to get Indiana to the point where they were the 4th seed in the playoffs. Like they actually were the higher seed between them and Miami, like, which is pretty crazy. And obviously the bubble doesn't mean as much for home court advantage as much as the fake crowd noise and everything seems to.
It's also doesn't like players had a chance to recover after between March and July.
But yeah, Malcolm Brogdon also like a really good 4-year guy for Tony Bennett. Comes off the bench his first year, but then like 3 solid years. There were injury issues that I know were kind of a concern. He plays in the Pan Am games. The game I go to, he doesn't score, but he and the other thing is I remember his mom saying, or somebody around me was saying that Fred VanVleet should have made that Pan Am games team. His teammate in college, Ron Baker, made it, but yeah, Fred VanVleet showing good things at USA Basketball apparently also when he was in college. And it was Malcolm Brogdon just has completely surpassed my expectations. Seemed like a borderline all-star like the past couple of years. It was a difficult situation, and like there was a lot that went into why Milwaukee couldn't sign him. And the salary cap is a delicate thing, and like yes, I guess they could have gone over and tried to sign him, and like that would have put them in the luxury tax. I know that's what Giannis was just talking about with Mark Lazary, but yeah, with Brogdon you have this guy who's 6'5", like I hear just grade A person, and from talking with his family, like they were absolutely like some of the smartest people I met, like in my brief interaction with them. They were wonderful, and really nice to me when they did not have to be at all. And he's a guy that I remember hearing, like, people are like, this guy could be like president of the United States. He's done some amazing things also, from like, like in terms of standing up for social justice and stuff like that as well. And he's somebody that I think is going to be a pillar for Indiana for a long time, and somebody I really want on my team.
Yeah, no, like a good size combo guard, like can do a bit of both.
Yeah, you can play either spot, and was so good with Milwaukee. Milwaukee obviously had a great season, but it got to the point where I think they really missed him.
No, at that point of the playoffs, like Malcolm Brogdon would have been
another big defender out there.
Yeah,
who could score.
Yeah,
and yeah, his shooting's really improved. Like initially, never like a super high volume guy, but over his career, 38.5% from three, 89% from the line.
I know. Oh, that's always good.
Good indicators.
Yeah.
Didn't shoot the same percentage this year, but still, he's tremendous. And a player I really like quite a bit. And he is fourth on our list. And maybe some people will feel he should be above this player. This guy, obviously, our number 3 spot is somebody who I feel gets the benefit of the doubt with past performance and past role. Did not necessarily do it this year. But Draymond Green, who's like a revolutionary player. Just somebody that, like, obviously, like, Boris Diaw was doing it with the Spurs, and was that guy who you could initiate offense through and then could guard like a number of players as well. Draymond Green just amplified that, did even more than that, and is.
But he did it on both ends of the court because he also brought the defense, the defense. Like, I don't think Diaw.
Oh, I'm saying Boris Diaw did it on both ends of the court as well, but Draymond, I think, just the defense, I think, a whole nother level, and then like crazy intuitive defender, and so strong, has length as well. And then, like, when you saw him in Michigan State, I remember when I was writing for NBADraft.net, I had this thing, it was called NCAA Daily, and I remember reading an article about Draymond Green and his take on the NBA draft process and just being sold. And not to mention the fact that he was a tremendous player that last year at Michigan State. It was always somebody that just like popped whenever you watch them, just because of his ability to do a little bit of everything.
He's kind of like a point post for Michigan State too. Like, they really relied on him for like an issue.
I just wasn't sure he would ever be in the conditioning level.
No, that was a concern for him coming into the league, was like.
But by his senior year, like, he'd gotten a lot better there and was an excellent player. Like, I'm pretty sure first team All-American his last year there. I think they had a somewhat disappointing NCAA tournament run, but either way, he certainly was on the precipice of being in the first round. He ends up being the 35th pick in the draft by the Warriors, is somebody who can still name all 34 people chosen in front of him, which I have to give him props. Maybe if you were in a similar situation, I wonder if Manu can name like all 56 people taken ahead of him, or like Fred VanVleet can name the entire draft class.
I'll be able to do that because I'll say this: spite never sleeps. So that's a great motivator. And no, like Draymond, like, again, like for me, when he was coming out of college, it's like conditioning, size, shooting, and those are all kind of things he's addressed, answered, and was obviously very, very lucky. Not like that it was, but just he's in a great situation, and he's, an anchor of this all-time team.
Yeah, and huge. I think he's seen sometimes as maybe like the most important factor for them being as good as they are, because without his defense, without his ability to make plays as a 4 or a 5, the Warriors might not be the same team. Yeah. Like, you obviously have 2 of the best shooters of all time. You added Kevin Durant, but like even before then, when Draymond was like maybe the second best player on the team during their first championship, like he was just tremendous. And when they lost in Game 7, Draymond Green looked like the best player on the floor. Like he was incredible during that game. He was awesome. And obviously a lot of people will bring up the fact that he got suspended during game 5 and all those things. Yes, you have a little extra with Draymond at times as well. He's been an amazing commentator also, but he just because the guy obviously is a basketball genius, and he really, really knows the game and is able to elaborate that and expound on that at a great level. And as a person that usually hates most commentators, and trust me, didn't love the stuff he said about BLM in Toronto.
Yeah, he was off on that, but like generally
off. But I think he understands, and he's redeeming himself and has redeemed himself. And Draymond Green is a player that, as a LeBron fan, I would cheer against, but he is also somebody I greatly, greatly respect as a player. I still think makes a tremendous impact. And I think even going into next year, you have to factor in Draymond Green it's a year where you like kind of don't write off the Warriors guys, but you give them kind of a year off. Like that was the thing.
Like let's let them all heal up and then come back and do something, with the second pick if they trade it or not. But Draymond Green, question for you.
Yes.
Draymond or Charles? There's a
like
lot of
as an all-time player?
There's a lot of talk between Charles Barkley, Draymond Green.
Like, in what context?
Oh, you didn't know? Like they kind of have like a feud with each other. They've been talking like in the.
Oh, like what's the feud about? One, who cares? Two, what's the feud about?
Just like a who's better kind of thing, and Charles.
Well, Charles Barkley obviously is the better all-time player. That is like that. I know Charles Barkley never won a championship, but it's really hard to take away the achievements of Charles Barkley, and he obviously did not have the team that Draymond had around him. Draymond does some things that Charles Barkley couldn't do as well, and Draymond was a better defender, and he is an excellent passer, obviously.
Yeah, better
Charles was a great passer, and the things Charles could do, actually like being the main guy and leading a team, I think surpasses Draymond as like the ultimate complementary option. When it comes to ranking all-time players, I don't even think it's close. It's like Charles Barkley is like a top 25 or so all-time player, and Draymond is just not even, I think, close to that range yet. Is Draymond Green a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Like, I think he can retire now and be that. But yeah, when you're talking about who the better all-time player is, when you're talking about who the better commentator is, and who like maybe has a little bit more nuance of the modern game, or I'll go with Draymond. So yeah, Charles is still like, jump shooting teams and stuff like that. And it's like, Charles, get with the fucking program. He was like, come on. But he's entertaining because of that. And like, that's the big thing with commentators. And maybe you and I should be more this way, where we just like kind of say whatever the hell and be general trolls. And that's where Charles absolutely excels. Now we will get to our second choice, and one of the 2 All-Stars from the season who were second-round picks, and that is Chris Middleton. And Chris Middleton, actually same draft as Draymond. So he goes only a few picks after Draymond. He's the 39th pick to Detroit. And it seems like Detroit didn't necessarily give him the run that they should have. Like, for whatever reason, it seems like Detroit, this is much worse in retrospect. So
also probably happier for Chris Middleton as well. He's not in Detroit. I mean, Milwaukee's got its.
So this was, I had forgot about this trade. And he, another guy that played some stints in the G League, but he was traded with Brandon Knight and Vyacheslav Kravtsov for Brandon Jennings. Yikes.
That worked out pretty well for Milwaukee, yeah.
Yeah. At first they were probably like, oh man, like we got Brandon Knight. But yeah, God, that is not great. And he was a guy that I always thought was really intriguing during his time at Texas A&M. His numbers didn't really like jump off the page, but there was a lot of intrigue with him. He was really long. Oh yeah, he shot poorly from 3-point range his last year there, but the year before he had shot pretty well, on like decent volume also. Yeah, I don't know. I guess his junior year at Texas A&M must have dipped him a little bit. I still think he was in that like conversation, but when he gets traded to Milwaukee, he is like coming off the bench for Detroit that first year, only plays 27 games, gets to Milwaukee, immediately has a role.
Yeah,
and then just it's like even expands from there, and has been an all-star the last 2 years. One of the best mid-range and like long-range shooters from the wing, is the ultimate 3-and-D guy that you're looking for right now. Like when it comes to because of Giannis being with Milwaukee, he's considered like the second guy. Could be the first guy on
on a lot of other situations.
And would still be a good winning player. And he's an all-NBA level guy this year. Also,
there's definitely situations where
he's going to be a second or third team guy.
I'm guessing he's getting the ball in those situations too, towards the end of some of the games.
Oh yeah, well, my whole thing with like clutch ability and everything, it usually goes to the best shooter.
Yeah.
And unless you have this innate ability to get to the basket that Giannis obviously has as well. But yeah, Chris Middleton is a guy that they do rely on in stretches for offense because he has become this fantastic knockdown shooter. Like, he had more indicators than Kawhi Leonard, who's become beyond today like one of the most absurd shooters in the league and just somebody who is really, really difficult to stop. Middleton's like, I would say, even more consistent. Just not necessarily like getting his own on the same basis and not as strong, but he's one of the better players in the league, and was a huge reason that Milwaukee had this like dominant regular season, I would say, the bubble notwithstanding, and being kind of different barrel monkeys.
No, totally. I mean,
you remember the game Barrel Monkeys, by the way?
Oh, totally. Love Barrel Monkeys.
Freaking awesome game.
Awesome game. Yeah.
It made no sense. I don't remember what the purpose was. I just remember I liked the monkeys.
You link the monkeys together, and they're like,
you linked them, but who cares? Like, it made no sense to me. I still remember taking some time and linking those little monkeys together, and you hung them off things, right? Like that was
like you put it on like a doorknob or something.
How'd you win? Like, I don't remember.
I don't think it was a game. I think it was
the Barrel Monkeys was a game you didn't have to win.
I think it was more just like Lego. It was like a toy more than like a game.
Yeah. Well, when they have the Barrel Monkeys movie, then we'll move on to that.
Yeah.
Don't think that's ever coming out.
Hey, they're making a Playmobil movie, so everything is possible.
Hey, Playmobil that was a different type of toy, and they haven't made like other Playmobil movies before.
No,
not like mainstream ones, but like
probably like some obscure ones, but like fucking mainstream.
Those are the ones that you used to like try and like get a hold of when you were dipping through your Playmobil catalogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They were just bigger Legos, basically.
Yeah, like
you know what? When is size like a bad thing?
No, and as her mom also would say, it's like she doesn't have her master's degree in friggin' architecture. Like, some of these Legos are super difficult and complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Playmobil is usually
plug and play, just throw it.
Yeah, it was a kind of a plug and play situation. Very true. Very true. Good point.
Like I've done it with like my nephew, and it's like I'm spending like friggin' like 4 hours putting stuff together.
Oh man, I tried with Saya. By the way, I want my friend John Carswell, his son, just turned 7, and they're starting school. Messiah, if you're watching this, I don't know if your papa turned this on for you. Happy birthday, and I will get your present very soon.
It might be Playmobil or Lego, TBD.
it might be choose your own adventure because it's going to be money. But
the best gift of all.
Yeah, exactly. He can choose his own thing. He one of my best friends is a son.
Totally understand. Well, I'm all about that life.
Nicola Yokitch is our number one player.
And he's
weird transition, but
yeah.
It's obvious. Let's end the suspense.
There's
this guy
and then there's a big line, and then there's other people.
So like Martin, who's Christensen, and Jeff Van Gundy are.
Sorry, I think we froze for a second, but basically Jokic.
But when it comes to statistics, and when it comes to like the role that he has to take and all the ways that he passes, and like obviously things evolve, Nikola Jokic is the best passing big man I've ever seen. He's absolutely insane.
Pretty good shot outside, but like he kind of hits that fadeaway sometimes. Like he just marks it up super high. Like he does.
Also like one of the best mid-range shooters, like from the center position in history.
Yeah. And the best
guy is absolutely like his touch is crazy.
The best part about Nikola Jokic as well is he doesn't look like he would be that.
Yeah. Well, I think at Hoop Summit, you look at Nikola Jokic, you don't see the athleticism that usually is like, that precursor to like the big that gets every rebound and, is dominating around the basket. But it doesn't matter with him. He's just has such a sense of the game. And the other thing with him is like physical tools play a huge part. The guy is like 6'11", 6'10" at the least. Has to be 280, 300 pounds in that area. I think now maybe he got down to 280. Remember people were saying like skinny Jokic was a bad thing? I don't think they're saying that anymore.
I think
he's unreal. And today, Jamal Murray scored 40 points. Nikola Jokic scored 16 points. But he also had 13 assists and 22 rebounds and played immaculate defense.
Again, triple double's not like
he was the best player on the floor.
Yeah, like it's not an uncommon
best player on the floor. And that's where I want to give the comparison. Yes, obviously two white centers and everything like that, but Bill Walton in 1977 and 78 had an amazing 2-year stretch where he was one of the best players in the league and winning tons of basketball games. And the thing that you said about Bill Walton was he was a guy that did not have to score to dominate the game. Yeah. And that's what you can say about Nikola Jokic as well. And not only that, he does score. He scores.
He does, and he scores
in many different ways. But yeah, he like today is 5 of 13, has 16 points, absolutely dominant. 22 rebounds, 13 assists. I think 3 blocks and 2 steals.
Yeah, the way he sees the court is just like super, super next level. Yeah.
You can just give him the ball and like is either pushing it forward or like the plays that he makes out of the high post.
They had the game in the scrimmage, like when they were kind of, at the beginning of the bubble and they're messing around and they like literally put him at point guard.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. He is their.
No, he's the point. He's the point guard because you want Jamal is best served moving off the ball.
Yeah.
And getting
or
him.
He's been great there. Yeah, for sure.
And then, kind of playing off Jokic's ability to kind of draw defense and kind of make those passes, make those moves. And no look pass it, he just gets it done.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they used to have Jusuf Nurkic too. They had both centers and they were talking about it actually tonight on ESPN. They're like, oh, there was like a debate between the two. And it's like, I love Jusuf Nurkic. As a player, I love Jusuf Nurkic.
It got to a point where there wasn't.
I would never, Jokic is at another level.
So Nurk's last year there, I think they did start the year with Nurk as their starting guy, and then eventually moved Jokic into the starting lineup, and that's when the team just got so much better, and they never looked back.
And it's like I love Jusuf Nurkic, but Jokic is just so so epic as
Yeah,
a
he's a guy that you can build a title contending team around.
and especially
As you see,
in
like if I were Lakers, I'd be afraid. Like
well, because he's one of the
this
few,
is a great team,
he's one of
and
the few
you have like he's going to be tough to stop. With the way Murray had a rough series against the Clippers for the most part, but man, he can get going, and he's like I think just absolutely increased his scoring ability from every level as well. And then they have some great complementary pieces too. They Gary Harris being back gives them another guard that they can go to. Jeremy Grant is somebody I really like for their team.
Oh, totally. And he also, honestly, off the court, also super, super nice person. So yeah, I've always been like a Jeremy Grant fan.
Paul Millsap still gives them some good minutes. Michael Porter Jr. gives them like entirely different look off the bench too that they didn't necessarily have last year. And they're without Will Barton too, who I would have loved to have seen what he can bring, because that guy can score in bunches as well, and is just kind of a fun player, albeit maybe not the most efficient, but a fun player. But yeah, Jokic is unless you're counting Anthony Davis as a center, and then we'll see in this series. Like that's going to be a big thing. I saw the Lakers won, I think, 3 out of the 4 games this year, but Denver won one by like 24. I would probably not put.
Again, everything's so different right
and
now.
One of the games was in the bubble, and Jamal Murray had like just come back, and yeah, like it's not going to be easy. Like what they were able to do to the Clippers, the Lakers have a tough time shooting the ball sometimes. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. But yeah, let's get back to Nikola Jokic out of Mega B-Max. Or what?
41st pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And obviously he doesn't come right out. He doesn't come, as overseas.
Yeah, but as we've talked about it a lot on this show. It seems like we've talked about Nikola Jokic many times. In Hoop Summit, he had a stretch of practice, like at least one stretch, but he looked good. He looked like a really good player. At Mega B-Max, he looked like a really good player. He had some tremendous passing indicators, of course, and he could shoot. It was just he didn't necessarily like look like your typical NBA center, which I think maybe threw some people off. Wasn't as athletic, and people were wondering if he could keep up. His mind keeps up with everything, and
this point,
obviously allows him to play at the best level and be one of the best players in the league.
At this point, he could wear a screen mask on the court, and I'd be fine with that.
He's always been like, as soon as he came to the league, he's been like a real plus minus like wonder, and has been like seemingly like in the top 10 of real plus minus every year. I think it's hard to argue against him as a top 10 player in the league.
And in a time when there's no centers, he's one of the centers.
I think no centers is tough, but he and Anthony Davis, I think, are the 2 best centers in the league, and we'll see. We'll see, because he's going to be the guy if they win. And he, like, even against Utah, absolutely tremendous. I sent you a statistic of him in elimination games.
Oh yeah,
the guy comes to play. He's lost one to the Blazers, but every time comes to play at the biggest moments. He's somebody that can score from every single level. One of the best, like he's looking like one of the best shooting bigs of all time. Also,
totally. And
like mentioned, the best passing big.
Mid range, and then he stretches it out to 3. It's super impressive. And like again, like post moves and just different ways to get a shot off.
Absurd court sense, thinks like 2 moves ahead of everything. And I don't know, man. He may be like, he's looking like one of the best 2nd round picks of all time. Like it's going to get to that point, I think, eventually. But man, he's
got a lot of skills. He's got a lot of skills you can't teach. Like he just has it.
And I had him as number 1 in the class of 2014. I think he's given himself a nice little separation from Joel Embiid at this point, who's also a tremendous player, and another reason you can't write off centers. And it's just that'll be an interesting because I think Joel Embiid is a very dominant player as well, but just everything Jokic brings on the offensive end, the fact that you could run your offense through him, he can create his own shot, just so much he brings to the table.
And you can run your offense through him at any part of the court. Like, it's not just dumping it in the post.
Sure.
He does his thing. Like, he can be at the top of the key.
So much skill. Yeah. Like, just really, really good at basketball. And, he's just somebody who the legend of him definitely. He and Jamal Murray were talking a lot about how much work they put in, and it paid off.
Well, it's like we're so lucky too, because again, he and Jamal are so young, so it's like hopefully they keep this. Other people obviously are going to have to come and go because that's just the way the league works. But if you can keep these two guys, like that could be something pretty special. And obviously, at 25, he's in the conference finals right now, so that's pretty huge. But we do have quite a list of honorable mentions.
Yes. All right. I'm going to go through quickly the list of honorable mentions. I could probably say
Academy
a little something about all of them, but you know what? I'm just going to go through the list and just show that there are a lot of really good second rounders on many different teams in the league or undrafted players. And I will name them now. In alphabetical order, Bojan Bogdanovic, who unfortunately was hurt for the bubble but plays for Utah. Christian Wood for Detroit. Daniel Tice for Boston. Daniel House Jr. for Houston. DeAndre Jordan out of Brooklyn. He's definitely stepped off a little bit, but still on the list. D'Anthony Melton out of Memphis. Devontae Graham out of Charlotte. Dylan Brooks, Memphis. Dorian Finney-Smith, Dallas, got consideration for this list. Duncan Robinson, Miami, consideration for the top 10 list. Junior out of Portland. Hassan Whiteside out of Portland. Jay Crowder out of Miami. Jeremy Grant out of Denver. Jordan Clarkson out of Utah. Josh Richardson out of Philadelphia. Marc Gasol out of Toronto. Would have been on this list probably last year.
Yeah, if it's career achievement, maybe. But yeah, like
Maxi Kleber out of Dallas. Mitchell Robinson out of New York. Norman Powell, Toronto. PJ Tucker, Houston. Seth Curry, Dallas. Spencer Dinwiddie, Brooklyn. Wesley Matthews, Milwaukee. And last, and certainly not least, and already mentioned, Will the Thrill Barton out of Denver, who we would have loved to have seen play for this Denver team as well. And let's also shout out the all-rookie teams were announced today. Canadian RJ Barrett did not make either team. I hope that is motivation for him. And I can't say it's completely surprising, but was left off of both all-rookie teams, and we're hoping he comes back next year and maybe is a top 10 sophomore.
Well, we'll see. His godfather's coaching the other side of town now.
Yeah. Well, you already saw pictures of RJ working out with Tom Thibodeau. And but the players for the all-rookie team, Kendrick Nunn was undrafted. Eric Pascal, second round, or Kendrick Nunn, obviously, with the Miami Heat. Eric Pascal was also all-rookie first team with Golden State Warriors. He was the last player selected on the team, barely over Tyler Hero. And Terrence Davis, undrafted, bet on himself, played a really good role with the Toronto Raptors, and he was on the all-rookie second team.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show, if there are young players out here that are aspiring, it's like, yeah, second round, undrafted, you can still do it. Keep pushing, build that skill.
So after talking about all these second round players, and I was looking through just teams and going over it, and I think a lot of teams now like kind of relied on some second round guys, but yeah, it's just there are a few other things I'd like to kind of look at. As I say, usually, I'm guessing usually about 8 to 10 second rounders have like over 6-year careers or so. That's on average, I would say, per draft. But yeah, second round is a wild card, and I would say you can't say all bets are off, and sometimes like higher second round picks are going to be better than lower ones. Like that, you still can get a pretty decent value of somebody that maybe slips a few spots, and then you'll see guys who you thought were bona fide first rounders, like a Montrezl Harrell maybe, or like get Draymond Green and get them there. But The thing I'm surprised we didn't talk about, Jason, is big commitment today.
Yeah, well, in the college basketball world, yes. So break it
Nathan
down.
Bittle. Nathan Bittle, who has played the last 3 years for Crater High School in Central Point, Oregon.
So like Southern Oregon.
Yeah, and he is has had a few stints with USA Basketball. Was the last player cut from the U16 team. Was hoping to make U17s if they would have had a U17 tournament this summer. Nathan committed to the University of Oregon. It was something I was a little concerned about after he went to Prolific Prep for his last year and was playing under a former Arizona assistant.
I mean, he already played with a bunch of Arizona guys previously.
Yeah, with West Coast Elite.
Yeah, on some stints.
On the Under Armour circuit. He is a player that I've luckily had the chance to see quite a few times. Hearing about this tall freshman out of Crater, I got to see him as a sophomore. And Nathan now is 6'11", has a 7'5" wingspan. He has tremendous basketball acumen. It just seems to work his butt off too. And his father, Ryan, constantly working with him. Obviously puts in a lot of hours at the gym, able to stretch the floor. He's comfortable out to 3-point range. Is a rim protector. Like the 7'5" wingspan, I'm guessing somewhere in the 9'3" range for standing reach. Nathan's blocking shots. I've seen a few games, not against the best competition where he's had double-digit blocks, but Nathan is no slouch on defense as far as rim protection is concerned. Certainly needs to gain strength. His dad is strong as all get out, so I'm liking the odds there of him eventually adding some requisite strength, but also like can attack closeouts, put the ball on the floor a little bit. There's a reason he's ranked very high, and seen as a almost certain McDonald's All-American pick if they have the game this year. It was a huge pickup for Oregon.
It was.
Chris Boucher is like the last guy who you could even like compare the skill set to, I would say. And
maybe Bull a little because it's like
true. But yeah, Nathan. I wouldn't say Nathan has like the Bull when you're talking about length is like a whole different bag.
Of course.
Yeah, good point. Chris Boucher, I would say, I'd say Bull was a little like Nathan. But yeah, Bull and Chris Boucher, two guys who I guess Oregon can kind of tip their hat to for what Nathan may play like. And he is somebody that is going to give immediate minutes to Oregon basketball. And really glad that he chose to stay in the state where he grew up.
Well, and it's the other thing too is, it's sad he's obviously not staying at Crater for his senior year, but the thing they are saying about him at Prolific Prep too is he's getting that training and he's going against these guys. It's really just gonna iron.
Oh, for sure. And with the uncertainty in Oregon this year,
of course, like with what's going on right now too, it's like you got to do what's best.
100%. Like I first off, I never fault anybody if they want to leave any state to.
No, of course,
but yeah, I completely understand him going to Prolific Prep. I would love to get a chance to see Nathan play during his senior year. I'm hoping that's a possibility. Everything's up in the air at this point, so we don't know. But yeah, I think I have a feeling that in this downtime, Nathan has not stopped doing what he's doing. And he and his dad have been training really hard and trained safe. And I was very, very happy to hear that Nathan was going to University of Oregon. Congrats to Nathan Bittle. Congrats to his family, who have always been tremendous when I have seen them in person also, and just wonderful people. So they would have been wonderful people wherever Nathan chose to go to school. And that's the thing with me. Like if somebody doesn't go to Oregon, I understand. And I understand whatever anybody wants to do.
But I understand, yeah.
But I'm ecstatic that he chose to go to Oregon. So yeah, it was a really cool day for us as far as seeing these two amazing playoff games, hearing the news of Nathan Bittle going to University of Oregon, and we want to thank you, Viseland crew or Viselanders or whatever you'd like to call yourself. If you have any nickname for yourselves or anything like that, I know we're not that big time, but if you so happen to, leave us a comment.
Let us know.
If you have any comments about our list, leave us a comment. If you're Utah and you think that Joe Ingles should be where Draymond Green is.
If you think Michael doesn't give Utah any respect, let us know so we can continue to shit on Utah.
Yes, that is a total thing that we will do. And yeah, thank you so much. You can reach us at Viseland on Twitter. I am at NBA Draft Mikey V. He is at J Visenberg. And you can also reach us at Viseland Pod on Gmail. We'll have other Viseland merch and other Viseland. We're taking over at Viseland.
Viseland private planes, and then we'll work our way down.
The Viseland private plane. Yeah, that's it. That is in the works. It's going to be a really small plane, and I'm going to be like Mr. Burns and be like,
the Spruce Goose.
Yeah, the Spruce Goose.
But thank you guys so much.
Spruce Goose. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. We always appreciate you. We appreciate everybody that leaves a like and comment and subscribes to our YouTube channel on Apple, on anywhere you get your podcasts. And thank you so much, as always, from Michael and Jason at Viseland.